You got
Testing.
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 La,
One
la, la, la,
testicles.
la, 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 la.
3 testicles. Testing.
Well, son of a bitch, how you guys doing tonight? I'm doing awesome. I had to work 7 hours today, which is bullshit. But besides that, I'm getting along. That's good to hear. Oh, Dr. Carl, forgive me. Did you watch The Fisher King? All right, I'll wait. I'll wait the 2.5 hours or whatever it is. Right here. No, I won't. Okay, hey guys. What I've got prepared for you is a 3 to 4 part series of some of the nerdliest and geekiest things you'll probably ever heard talked about. Unless you're a nerd or a geek. You know, let me take that back. If you want to know how me and my friends talk when we're hanging out, this is a great example of it over the next few days. I'm going to labor my best over the next few days to put out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many episodes it takes. And I'd like to also interject with some other normal videos too, just sitting down with you guys again, maybe 1 or 2 nights and just talking about what's been on my mind lately. For example, you know what? Hang on. Why don't you guys watch the first part of this video? Like I said, this is going to be long. I'm going to try to break it into about 20-minute segments each, or as close as I can to that. I think the first one's already at 34 minutes, so I might just cut it in half, put it up as 2 parts. So you have the option, or 3 parts. Who knows? Anywho, I really think you guys should power through these. I think they're really good. I think they're funny. I think they're fun. And little does Nick and Chris know, my 2 guests on episode 251 of The Road to 40, I recorded the last hour and 20 minutes or so of us hanging out and just watching videos on YouTube. I don't know how much of that will actually make it up. I'll probably cut that way down, but I think it's some of the best stuff because they had no idea. I don't think they had any idea. But I did. So, without further ado, let me show you the first, 15, 20 minutes or so of this episode and see what you think. If you're not into them, you know, it is just 3 geeks sitting in a room. Well, 2 geeks and a self-proclaimed, I'm sorry, that was incredibly racist, proclaimed non-geek, which is bullshit. Actually, to be completely honest, Nick, I consider a historian. Of all my friends, I would call him the historian. Jeff Godick would be the traveler. Chris Castanes is the Viking. Like, in my mind, this is how, not that I label them or I label people, but we're all geeks, man. Just get over it. Anywho, here's part 1 of episode 251, and I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight. You never know what's going to happen. But I got a lot of footage to edit through. I'm talking 3 hours of footage here. Enjoy, and I'll be right back at the end of this first video.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
This is you know, us.
That's me again.
And,
That's right. This is the second time these
double
gentlemen have been on
feature.
the show.
This is a double feature creature feature.
Creature double feature, brother. So we're going to start out talking about fantasy and how we were introduced to fantasy.
Yep.
And stuff like that. And I'm sure it's going to go its own course after a few of these.
Of course.
So when I met you guys, you were already playing D&D and stuff like that. Now, your dad was late, though. He
came in right when we started D&D in that group. That's his first experience of D&D.
And how long have you been playing D&D?
That's a tough question because there really wasn't any date that you can look back
right.
Okay, we started on June 7th.
I know. I got interested to it through there's a what was he? It was a coach. What was it?
Well,
not coach. It was what's his face in high school?
No, it's Coach Clark.
Coach Clark.
Yeah, he was in my CST class in high school. And this was back, I think, at least for me, it was junior year. And, I knew about D&D before then. I liked RPGs. I played video games and whatnot. I knew of it. And our friends, Hillary and Jason, played it as well.
That was probably our first.
They moved to California.
Yeah, they moved to California. And they probably introduced it to us as far as people who actually play with. Mm-hmm. But Coach Clark was the first guy to kind of organize something.
Yeah, we actually created character sheets that we never used.
Yeah.
But was that your first walk into fantasy?
No,
Or
well,
did you...
No.
I had my first walk into fantasy was very early on. I mean, I had been exposed to things early on, such as like the Dark Crystal and stuff like that when I was young.
I hate that movie.
I love that movie for many reasons.
Well, I was exposed to male genitalia early on.
Yeah,
it was
well,
very traumatic.
It's hard to not when you yourself are a man.
Oh, human body is a thing of beauty, my friend. Yeah, you see,
But
very different world.
Sorry.
But my first like real step into fantasy was probably with Harry Potter as a kid. But I didn't really like when I found Lord of the Rings. I kind of just threw Harry Potter away.
Yeah.
I really, it was Harry Potter's kind of fantasy light, and there's nothing wrong with Harry Potter. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not, it's like fantasy's like a drug, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just got to get the stronger shit, man.
Yeah, and personally, I know you might crucify me as a heretic for saying this, but I've never really been a huge fantasy fan. I've always been more interested in horror and darker stuff. And not to say that there isn't really dark things.
Right.
I mean, it's just personally, I've never really been drawn to genres. Well, or anything that's that has very strict boundaries within the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that with fantasy and sci-fi, you can look at things and see that's fantasy, that's sci-fi.
That's definitely the case.
I've always liked stories for what they are, not really for the genre.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't really become interested in any particular fantasy, as far as actually having a huge interest in until I started reading Robert E. Howard.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the early pulp stuff.
Conan.
Conan.
And other stuff.
Yeah, Solomon Kane and a lot of other kind of series that he wrote.
Those are all great.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very,
and
very good.
It satisfied my need for something dark and gritty, and at the same time, you could also suspend your disbelief and appreciate fantasy
monsters and magic and warriors and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, I remember horror growing up when I was a kid too. Like I remember, I'd sit with my grandmother on Sunday afternoons and watch Creature Double Feature. That was my first introduction to horror. And then I used to go stay with my cousins down in Rhode Island. And they were crazy into like Friday the 13th. And I was like 9 or 10 when I was seeing these movies and just being like terrified by what was going on. I'm like, I shouldn't be seeing this. It's
funny you mention that because I think a lot of our interests that we develop later in life, start when we're in adolescence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for me personally, fantasy's always been there. And of course, as
and
my brother, we
live
were
in
the
a
same
family where fantasy is like the norm.
Right.
So for us, fantasy is kind of generic.
It is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's why I probably went that gritty direction. And I have a lot of fond, nostalgic memories of Halloween.
Yeah.
And so that I'm sure played a large role into it.
And for me, one of the defining aspects of my childhood was Jurassic Park. And it just was. And that's why I got into sci-fi. Yeah. That's why I have that connection with it, is in that direction. Not so much like the Star Wars, Star Trek kind of read.
And I will say this about fantasy, though. This idea that you can create this world that's at least loosely based on something in the human past. A lot of high fantasies kind of got that generic medieval.
I'm 1/8 elf, if you didn't know.
Oh yeah. That did have an appeal. I'm a huge history buff, and so taking history and appropriating it into your own unique style, and making it what you want it to be, is cool. And I do like that aspect.
And I think history is extremely important when looking at fantasy because a lot of fantasy writers heavily base their stories on history, and they use aspects of history. And you can't really have a fantasy without knights or that
exactly.
kind of idea.
Now, for me, the funny thing is growing up, the first thing that I got introduced. It's funny that you said Dark Crystal though, because I remember being something about the Dark Crystal when I saw it. It was just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck was
different.
that?
This is not anything I've seen or dealt with before. But for me, it wasn't until I was about 18 and 19 when a friend recommended the Dragon's Bottom Twilight. And I probably never would have gotten into fantasy if it hadn't been for that book. I was sick for 3 days, and I just read. I was like, can you go get me the next one, the next one, the next one? So you guys had it easy. You just walked into
That's really odd. The way I got my start in fantasy, officially, is through Morrowind.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't have really gotten into I probably would have just left it at Lord of the Rings and just been a Lord of the Rings fan and not looked at other fantasy if it hadn't been for an Elder Scrolls game. Wow. Which is weird because it's kind of like a low place to start. Even though Morrowind, I would give it credit, has a pretty awesome lore behind it in opposed to the other Elder Scrolls games.
Right. That's just an ever-growing world. That's just
Well, yeah, it's a pretty awesome.
unbelievable.
And that's something else that, you know, I mean, I love the Elder Scrolls series.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're really cool. But again, getting back to what I mentioned earlier about genres that kind of restrict themselves, you know, whenever a genre becomes really well established and it proliferates and becomes mainstream, it has a tendency to kind of recycle itself.
Yes.
And
yeah.
how do you fantasy, because it is so otherworldly, because
People
it does
try to
push the
replicate
boundaries
it.
of reality. It's like Chris said, it's kind of like a drug. You know,
Yeah.
you get more and more kind of abstract in a sense, or at least more and more interesting, whatever you want to call it. And then it becomes stale.
Yeah, it
And
just
then,
really
you
does.
know,
Yeah,
you have to go
yeah.
into the something new.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've fallen into over the last like 6 months or so. I got to the point, no, even for maybe a year back, like I'd read fantasy, and Ari Salvatore I've always been a big fan
Yeah.
of.
He's great.
But like his last 2 or 3 novels came out, and like I wasn't in a rush to read them because he's spoiler alert. He's bringing back all the characters that have been killed off because the gods have summoned them to be their representatives. I mean, it's a good reason,
Yeah.
but like I have no interest. I'm like, you know what? I wanted to see where Driz goes from here. Whereas he was starting to hang out with the villains and stuff, and I was just like, this is exciting. And then he just brought it back, and I was so upset that I was just like, you know what? I'm done with fantasy. And I went on to the Jim Butcher series, The Dresden Files.
Oh yeah.
And I just read the
You know, there's
14 of those.
there's a great series. It's a Polish series called The Witcher. It's really good. And it's not just a video game. There's a series of books called The Witcher.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's
that
not
are
related
based.
to
They're
the-
related.
Oh, they
the
are.
games are based on the books,
Hmm.
and they are very good. They're Polish.
Oh, see, that's the problem. I hate Polish people.
Oh, you can't read it.
Yeah.
All those years of Pollock jokes.
Yeah,
can't
damn
read it.
Poles.
Damn Polacks.
Carol and I got into a conversation New Year's Eve night, no, Christmas night, about what do you call, like, all right, Rabbi Zibelberg, is
Yes.
he a Jew?
He is a
He-
Jew.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
he
Is that
Jew.
okay to say?
Yeah.
That's okay
Yes,
to say.
he is
All right.
Jewish.
When is the word Jew not okay to say? The only time I could think of is when you put the word
When
like
you say,
fucking in
yeah,
front of
he's
it.
a fucking Jew.
All right, so that's, I mean,
Yeah,
Well, I
like,
think that's true of just about any
All right, so-
ethnicity.
okay.
Yeah.
or
If you
religious
attach a
group.
negative connotation with the
Dang.
word,
But like
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with Jewish.
but Jew is okay to use across the board.
Yeah,
Jew
yeah.
is okay.
Hebrew just sounds like you're
Oh,
trying
he's
to
a
get
Jew. Or
Yeah.
do I say he's a Jew, or is he
He's
Jewish?
He's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
So
Either
that
way.
would
Or
not
he's
be
a
okay
Jew.
to say he is a Jew then.
No, I think either.
Either
Is it
works.
all right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not Jewish. So
We went back and forth the other night. I couldn't figure it out.
I'm not Jewish, so I can't tell you.
Honestly, I don't think any Jewish. No one that I've met who's
Yeah.
Jewish
Has
or
cared.
who is a Jew
Doesn't
really
get-
cares.
right. Okay.
No.
all right.
I mean, the word isn't a bad word.
Mm.
I mean, that's the. I mean, a lot of people use it in a derogatory sense, but I mean, that's what they are.
Right.
I mean,
right,
that's
right.
They're
it's-
Jewish.
yeah, it's
They're-
Judaism.
It's Judaism.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
Christians
all right.
wouldn't be offended by saying you're
I
a
don't know
Christian.
how we got
or
on
you're
that, but I just
Yeah.
remember that it clicked with me, and I was just like, "Is it okay to say that?" All right,
Yeah,
it is
no,
okay to say
I
that.
think it's
He's a
okay.
Jew.
And for regardless of whether or not it refers to, the ethnocultural group or the
Or an
the
individual.
religion.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I think you're in the good. You're in the clear, man.
I think you're in the
Alright, good,
clear.
good, good.
I think you're in the clear.
So, what are some new fantasy things you guys, or horror things that?
Um,
Well, you can
You
answer
got
this
this.
first.
well, as far as fantasy goes, I mean, I've seen that. I just saw The Hobbit, but that's kind of the exact example of fantasy being
Squeezing it.
yes,
to the max, yeah.
the life being squeezed out of it. Not to say
I
that it was a
haven't seen
bad
it yet,
movie.
but- Mhm.
It was a fine movie. It was okay, but it's an example of fantasy pretty much being having the life squeezed out of it.
The funny thing is if you had said 20 years ago, we're going to have all these fantasy movies
Yeah.
coming out, I would have been like,
Yeah.
I don't care. I
Right.
want them. I want them. I want them.
Right.
And then now it's just like,
I don't want the fantasy.
The Hobbit
movies.
was awesome, but you could have done it in one movie.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Do
mean,
it
2
one
movies
movie.
would have been okay, but 3, it just...
3 is
Now-
pushing it.
I heard the 3rd one they expanded.
Yeah,
the
there's
story.
it's not expand. It's not like they added stuff that wasn't never in
Right,
lore. There, I'm sure there is a little bit embellishment. Like there are certain characters that were never written about. Like Tariel is not in any books ever. She doesn't exist in Tolkien lore.
Oh, that's from Lost there. Her, right?
He hasn't seen Lost.
Oh, you haven't seen Lost.
You should
Yeah, I
watch
don't know.
Lost.
I've never seen Lost.
Really? You should
Well, I've
watch
seen
it.
like a few episodes a long time ago when it first started. I watched a few episodes and I got disinterested. So
Actually, the year we moved here, we were at a laundromat right near Gibbons Books. Actually, that scary little laundromat.
Mhm.
Actually, this is a good story to tell you guys. And Carol and I were doing laundry. We were sitting there, and it was, I don't know if they were replaying it or it was the first episode of Lost was on the TV there, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect timing. We wanted to watch it. So that's how we saw. Well, how we got into Lost. But there were two people from the trailer park across the road. Who started a conversation with us. Now, not that there's anything wrong with people who live in trailer parks, but, like, it was creepy scary. Like, this is one of our first experiences living here outside of our little bubble. Like, in our house and going to Home Depot to buy paint and stuff like that. Yeah. And they were like, oh, you guys should just come on over whenever you want. Our trailer's number 667, and you can
667.
Neighbor of the Beast. And we're just like, are they going to murder us? Or are they going to, like, rape us? Or what is going on here? So we never obviously went over there. But
you don't go.
Speaking of Lost, taking it back to Lost.
Yeah, well, yeah, her character that was developed for the movie did not exist in Tolkien's lore.
Really?
A lot of the stuff that's in the third Hobbit is in the Book of Unfinished Tales.
Really?
Like
that just came out too, didn't it?
No, it's been
no. The Children of Huron.
Yeah, that came out.
Oh, here we go.
Can you put on the Disney the 30 game for me?
In a little bit, honey. Right now we're recording. It's my nightly internet show called The Road to 40, where I talk about all kinds of crazy shit.
Whoa.
Yeah, just give me a minute, buddy, and I'll come out and I'll put it on for you. In a few
We'll do
minutes,
it like
okay?
a cut sequence, and it'll be like back.
I like to cut to be safe anyway. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the people in the internet world?
Anyone out there you want to give
all
a shout
of my
out
6
to?
viewers.
They are
They are. They are.
All right. Now I'm gonna have to beat that. Get the hell out.
Get out of here.
All right, I'll be on in a few minutes, buddy.
That's what they are. They're tiny little itsy bitsy.
What a jerk.
Man.
He's a right bastard.
So much for your 6 viewers.
They're gone.
Yeah.
They're not
It's a good
watching
thing this
this.
isn't live, man.
If this is live,
That's the funny thing about having a YouTube channel. Like, you know what my problem is my videos go on and on and
Yeah,
on.
well,
Like,
it's gonna happen.
it's
Yeah.
just going to happen.
like I need to do like 7-minute videos rather than like 37-minute
Here's
videos.
37.
Alright, so my videos do tend to linger a little bit longer than they're welcome sometimes. I'm sorry, this is me, this is what I'm doing, man. I am very happy to see you here at the end of this video, though. If you made it through this and you enjoyed it, then I think you'll like the rest of the series. By the way, this is going to be a 6-part series where I will just touch here and there on certain topics. Other than that, you're not going to see me very much over the next week. I got a lot going on. I have to get some test scores for Grayson to submit to the homeschool thing. I've got something I'll talk about on Friday with you guys. It's not very fun. But anywho, I also want to give a shout out to Bob Melanson, who's been there for me this last year whenever I've had a question about doing this. He's a friend of mine who I grew up with back in Taunton. He lives in Utah. I'm in Virginia now. But he does sound projects and video editing and stuff. So, and his wife has a blog. If I can find the link to it, I'll link it on here. He's been a huge help this last year. Just whenever I've had a question, he's answered it. So thank you very much, Bob. Thank you, Castanes Clan, for coming out and being a part of this. I think it's a lot of fun. Now, this next one, and a few more of these, but specifically this next one, starts to delve into a little bit more serious topic. It has to do with virtual reality and morality issues. So if you like what you saw so far, I think you'll like this next one. And yeah, I'm going to pop in and out of these videos here and there when I see fit. There's not going to be a lot of me, though. So you guys enjoy this 6-part series, and I'll see you by the mid-end of the week. All right? Take care, everybody.